Hello everyone, I am the Banished Prince, and after doing my first vlog, I decided to go ahead and watch the Avatar episodes in order from book 1 on, just giving my opinion of the episodes, and just going from there. If you have any comments about my thoughts or things that I didn't mention, then just comment below. Other than that, I'm just gonna go through the episodes. I just watched the first episode, and before I forget, I today wore my Avatar shirt. Avatar State, yep. Anyway, so I'm just gonna start talking about the first episode. After seeing it, this is my 10th time seeing it. I always loved how in the beginning when it showed the Southern Water Tribe, not even the tribe, but just the South Pole, it went from the opening into the scenery. That always gives me chills because I always think all the way back, or all the way in Legend of Korra, how much that's changed since this first episode and how this started everything. And I really like that. I like getting that feeling every time I rewatch the series. And so yeah, another part that I find interesting. Okay, so this is supposed to be. It was turned into something different, but it was supposed to be a kids show, being on Nickelodeon, and it kind of transformed into something different. But the first season, and especially this first episode, really you can tell that it was supposed to be a kids show. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but you can really, especially comparing it to the other episodes, and one of the things that really stands out to me at least is the facial expressions and how they're animated. It's like when Katara was screaming at Sokka about cleaning his dirty laundry and, just being a man, looking down on women. And the facial expressions that both Sokka and Katara had were just priceless. And if you pause the episode almost anywhere, there is some interesting facial expression that you can probably screenshot. And I think that's really funny that you don't really get that in other episodes. So something else that I really liked about pretty much the world in general. Sorry if I'm not really talking too much specifically on the episode. I'm trying to. Is that I like this world. They make it so parallel to our world that it's relatable, but they changed enough to where it's relatable, but it's still a different world. Especially in the scenery, like they show the celestial lights. That's something that obviously I hope you know that it's in this in the polls, and it's something that does exist, and they put that in this show. They make it really realistic, which I do like, with adding their own twist in it, of course. And then moving on, I like the humor. It starts off really cheesy. After watching the series for like a long time, I have grown into Sokka's humor, and I know some people. I mean, it is still cheesy. Personally, it doesn't take much for anything to make me laugh. So even these first few episodes, which are supposed to be really cheesy, stupid jokes, are funny to me. And especially when I love how they set up though. One of the first jokes is when they first show Appa, and Sokka's freaking out, but then they kind of have him just act kind of chill about it, where Aang's like, "Oh, this is Appa, my flying bison." Sokka's like, "Right," and this is Katara, my flying sister, kind of just serious about it, and then right after, Appa sneezes all over Sokka, making him spaz out. And I love the contrast with that. The reason why that's really so funny, especially to me, is that the contrast from him he actually, like, I saw the animation, I was focusing on it, he was just standing there still, and then Appa sneezed all over him, and he completely freaked out, like rubbed against the snow. And I just love. You can tell that they weren't just like throwing in, like they didn't have Sokka always like freaking out. They, I don't know, I'm probably just rambling right now, but I just thought that was really funny. Another other parts that I love, as you all probably already know, my favorite character is Zuko, and part of the reason is because of the development that they've built up so much from the beginning. And in the first episode, the reason why this is different from other shows is because the villains, it's almost, they have a reason to be bad guys. They're not necessarily bad. They have reasons for what they do. They're not like born bad. And that's another point that's brought on later on in the series. But I love in this episode, Iroh mentions to Zuko, when he wants him to get some sleep, he says, your grandfather, grandfather, and great-grandfather have all tried to find the Avatar and have all failed. And how do you think that you can find him? That shows in the first episode that Zuko isn't necessarily evil and that he has a lot of pressure on him. And yes, it shows he still is devoted to capturing the Avatar, but there's reason behind it, which I really like. So something that I mentioned before was the connection of Legend of Korra with the first series and how much has changed. But one thing that I've noticed the connection to this episode was in season 2 of Legend of Korra, and this isn't a spoiler or anything. In book 2, they're in the Southern Water Tribe, and they have this huge tower made of ice, as all the other buildings are made of ice. But you notice, if you make the connection, I'm pretty sure that is supposed to be like Sokka's watchtower in the first episode that gets destroyed like twice. Once by Aang, the second time by in the second episode actually by Zuko's ship. And I just thought that was really funny. And then actually back to Zuko, because I love how this episode goes back and forth between serious parts and joking parts, which is for the most part Zuko. The comparison between going Zuko's part of the story and Aang's part of the story. But within those stories, they have funny and serious parts. But in Zuko's part, I love the seriousness of when they start describing the bending and how that works. In the first episode, they just start explaining how firebending works, how it comes from the breath and not the muscle. And they do that throughout the entire series, but I love how they start from the first episode, just to show a little bit of each bending. So this episode was a little lesson on firebending, and I love the depths behind it. I don't know the specific ones, but I know that each element style was based off of an actual martial arts style. So I thought that was really cool. And another form of bending that you don't really, when you first watch this episode, you don't really think about it much. But when Katara and Aang reach the Fire ship or Fire Nation ship that was a part of the first raid on the Southern Water Tribe, you see it stuck in a huge glacier of ice. And so that you don't, when you first watch it, you don't grasp how powerful of a bender that took. I mean, you know now that it was several benders. They showed that in the Southern Raiders episode, I believe. and they show the flashback of that happening. But they don't. That's like the first time that they really show you a big use of bending. Like that's a ship, a metal ship that was basically lifted off the ground by huge shards of ice. That's a powerful move to use, even with a lot of waterbenders. And I just love how they threw that in, and you don't really grasp the power of that until later on in the series. And aside from that, the episode just ended with them going into the ship and getting the booby trap, and then Zuko seeing Aang. And something else I thought I always think is really funny is how Zuko thinks that Aang or the Avatar is going to be 112 years old and old person, and then when he sees him, he's like, oh, he must be agile for his age. And then he just ends up being a little kid, and not even, at first at least, not even too much of a serious kid. When he first meets him, he's riding a penguin. I mean, this is the second episode. I probably shouldn't be talking about it because I'm going to do that in my next vlog. But I just love how Zuko underestimates him from the get-go, but then I love he doesn't continue to do it, but I just find that really funny. Other than that, that's pretty much my sum up of what I thought of the episode. If you guys thought I missed anything, or if you wanted to add anything to it, or disagreed with anything I said, put your comments below. And I might, in my next vlog, I'll probably mention those comments first, if there are any, and talk about that, and then move on to the next episode. So that's all that'll probably work, and please subscribe. I am the Banished Prince, and thank you.